Is the incessant hum of anxiety a permanent resident in the landscape of your mind, or merely a transient storm that can be quelled with understanding and discernment? This pressing question cuts to the core of the human condition, challenging our deeply ingrained habits of apprehension and control. Carl Jung, with his profound explorations into the architecture of the psyche, understood that society often encourages a state of hypervigilance, a perpetual anticipation of threat that keeps us ensnared in a cycle of worry. To live constantly braced for impact, to accept fear as an unyielding companion, is the path of least resistance for the ego. Yet it inevitably leads to a life diminished by unlived moments and a spirit suffocated by imagined burdens. You may find yourself at a crossroads, weary of the relentless mental chatter, yearning for a state of profound peace and an unshakable inner calm that seems perpetually out of reach. Yet, an invisible current of apprehension often pulls you back, a peculiar addiction to the very act of worrying that subtly undermines your efforts towards tranquility. This video is not a superficial promise of instant relief. It is an immersive journey into the very mechanisms of worry, a practical manual to identify, dissect, and ultimately transcend the mental patterns that bind you. Prepare yourself, for the wisdom you are about to receive promises a transformative unveiling of a life truly free from the shackles of endless apprehension. The first principle we must grasp, often obscured by the very intensity of our fears, is the principle of the anticipatory projection. This dictates that worry is not a response to a present threat, but rather an unconscious projection of potential future anxieties onto the current moment. Your mind, seeking to maintain a sense of control over an inherently unpredictable world, creates elaborate scenarios of what might go wrong, consuming your present energy with phantom struggles. This is not a helpful planning tool. It is a profound misdirection of your vital force, keeping you perpetually in a state of alarm. This insidious principle connects intimately with Jung's concept of the inferior function and the shadow's tendency to manifest in unexpected ways. When our conscious mind over-identifies with control and prediction, the unconscious compensates by throwing up a myriad of potential catastrophes, revealing the futility of absolute control. Consider the ancient Roman general who, despite meticulous planning and overwhelming forces, would be plagued by omens and nightmares before battle, projecting his internal anxieties onto the external world. These premonitions, though seemingly foretelling doom, were often mere reflections of his own fear of the unknown, draining his resolve rather than genuinely preparing him for the challenges ahead. In the contemporary landscape, this shadow principle manifests insidiously across various domains. In professional life, a project manager might spend more time worrying about hypothetical logistical nightmares than actually executing the tasks at hand, paralyzing progress. In personal relationships, individuals project their insecurities onto their partners, constantly anticipating betrayal or abandonment, thereby creating the very distance they fear. Even in financial matters, a constant worry about market crashes or future instability prevents strategic, mindful saving and investment, leading to stagnation. To truly dismantle this barrier, cultivate a rigorous awareness of your thoughts. Whenever you find yourself spinning a narrative of future disaster, consciously pause and ask, is this truly happening now? Separate present reality from future projection. Redirect your mental energy to what you can influence in the immediate moment. This disciplined presence will begin to starve the anticipatory projection of its fuel, allowing you to reclaim your present peace. The second shadow principle is the principle of unintegrated uncertainty. This posits that worry flourishes in the absence of a compassionate acceptance of the inherent ambiguity of life. We are conditioned to seek absolute answers and predictable outcomes, and when these are not readily available, our minds desperately try to fill the void with fearful conjectures. This leads to an exhausting mental struggle against the very nature of existence, trapping you in a perpetual state of unease. This principle directly relates to the Jungian concept of the transcendent function, which seeks to bridge the conscious and unconscious, but can be hindered by our resistance to paradox and mystery. When we resist uncertainty, we resist a fundamental aspect of reality itself. Recall the Stoic philosophers like Epictetus, who taught that true tranquility comes from distinguishing between what is within our control and what is not. To worry about what is beyond our control, he argued, is to live in a state of perpetual psychological slavery. Their wisdom stemmed from a profound acceptance of life's inherent unpredictability, a recognition that not all questions have immediate answers, and not all paths are clearly illuminated. In modern society, this manifests with alarming frequency. The relentless pursuit of definitive information online, the constant checking of news for updates, or the demand for immediate solutions to complex problems all stem from an inability to tolerate uncertainty. In career choices, many remain in unfulfilling jobs because the uncertainty of a new path feels too overwhelming. In health matters, the desire for a guaranteed cure or a perfect state of wellness can lead to obsessive anxiety about minor symptoms. Preventing genuine acceptance of the body's natural fluctuations. To overcome this, begin by consciously embracing ambiguity. Practice letting go of the need for immediate answers or perfect clarity. Engage in activities that cultivate patience and trust in natural processes, such as gardening or observing the changing seasons. Recognize that wisdom often emerges from the liminal spaces of not knowing. This conscious surrender to the unknown will gradually dissolve the mental resistance that feeds worry, allowing for a deeper, more peaceful engagement with life. The third shadow principle, often operating beneath conscious awareness, is the principle of displaced control. This is not about having a healthy desire for agency, but rather an unconscious attempt to control aspects of your life that are inherently uncontrollable, often as a compensatory mechanism for feeling powerless in other areas. Worry becomes a false sense of control, a ritualistic engagement with potential threats, giving the illusion that by mentally rehearsing catastrophe, you can somehow prevent it. This deep-seated need for control often resides in the shadow, fueled by archetypal patterns of the tyrant or the overlord projected onto one's inner world. It is closely linked to the ego's primitive desire for omnipotence. Consider the myth of King Midas, whose wish for everything he touched to turn to gold. A desire for ultimate control over material wealth ultimately led to his profound suffering, turning his beloved daughter into a lifeless statue. His desperate need to control his environment led to unforeseen, destructive consequences, illustrating the futility and danger of overreaching beyond one's true sphere of influence. This manifests profoundly in contemporary life. Individuals obsessively check their investments, despite knowing that market fluctuations are beyond their direct control, leading to chronic stress. Parents worry incessantly about their adult children's choices, attempting to exert influence where autonomy is required. Even in daily routines, an overwhelming need to perfectly orchestrate every detail can lead to paralyzing anxiety when unforeseen circumstances arise. highlighting the shadow's attempt to exert control over the uncontrollable. To liberate yourself from this unseen burden, consciously identify areas where you are attempting to control the uncontrollable. Practice the art of radical acceptance, acknowledging that certain outcomes are beyond your direct influence. Focus your energy and actions exclusively on your sphere of true influence, which is primarily your own reactions, attitudes, and efforts. This conscious act of letting go will dismantle the illusion of control that feeds worry, allowing your energy to flow towards genuinely productive and fulfilling endeavors. If you're finding this deep dive into the nature of worry to be insightful, and believe this message resonates with your quest for inner peace, subscribe to the channel and enable notifications so you don't miss any content that will further empower your journey towards tranquility. If you feel a persistent yearning to break free from the invisible chains of anxiety, to finally experience an unburdened mind and a truly present existence, know that this inner calling is not a fantasy. It's your authentic self preparing for a profound liberation, a reclaiming of inherent serenity and an unshakable inner peace. There are potent principles and practices that can illuminate this path of autonomy and self-masteration, empowering you to live with an unshakable clarity and a profound sense of inner calm. In the pinned comment, we have made available resources that were carefully crafted for souls like yours, ready to experience their most profound personal revolution. We have begun to unveil the insidious ways anticipatory projections, unintegrated uncertainty, and displaced control subtly fuel your worrying mind. You've seen how these hidden principles operate from the shadow, draining your energy and limiting your capacity for present joy. But these are merely the common inhibitors. Now, we delve into the more complex, yet equally vital, shadow principles that, once integrated, unlock profound levels of inner freedom and a lasting cessation of chronic worry. The coming insights are not for the faint of heart. They require a courageous willingness to confront your deepest self-deceptions. The fourth shadow principle, often deeply ingrained, is the principle of the unexamined catastrophe narrative. This manifests as a default tendency to automatically assume the worst-case scenario, to magnify potential negative outcomes, and to dwell on them relentlessly. It's not a rational assessment of risk, but rather an unconscious script playing out, born from past traumas, learned helplessness, or a pervasive cultural conditioning that emphasizes threats over opportunities. This amplification of negative outcomes is intimately tied to the Jungian archetype of the trickster or the shadowy prophet, projecting fear as a form of distorted wisdom. It's the part of us that, believing it's protecting us, instead creates a self-fulfilling prophecy of dread. Consider the biblical story of Job, who, despite his righteousness, was afflicted with unimaginable suffering. His initial declaration, "What I feared has come upon me. What I dreaded has happened to me," speaks to the powerful, almost magnetizing effect of a dominant catastrophe narrative. While the story is complex, it highlights how a deep-seated apprehension can, psychologically, invite the very struggles one seeks to avoid. This shadow principle plays out frequently in modern professional and personal lives. Individuals, faced with a minor setback at work, immediately envision job loss and financial ruin, triggering intense anxiety. A slight symptom of illness is automatically interpreted as a life-threatening disease, leading to obsessive health worries. Even in everyday social interactions, a perceived slight is immediately magnified into an absolute rejection, leading to withdrawal and isolation. The pervasive nature of negative news cycles further reinforces this inherent human tendency to focus on potential threats, To dismantle this pervasive narrative, begin by consciously interrupting the worst-case scenario thought patterns. When a fearful thought arises, immediately challenge its veracity and explore alternative, more neutral or even positive outcomes. Practice thought diffusion, observing your worrying thoughts as external phenomena rather than internal truths. Actively seek out and focus on evidence of positive outcomes and resilience in your own life and in the world around you. This consistent, conscious reframing will gradually reprogram your mind's default settings, allowing you to see challenges as opportunities rather than inevitable disasters. Finally, we encounter the most pervasive and often the most resistant shadow principle, the principle of the unconscious attachment to the problem. This is not a deliberate choice to worry, but rather a subtle, often unrecognized comfort found in the very act of worrying itself. It provides a sense of purpose, a justification for inaction, or even a perverse feeling of moral superiority. In anticipating misfortune, worry becomes an identity, a familiar landscape, and the unconscious resists the unknown territory of freedom from apprehension. This intricate attachment to worry is the ultimate expression of the shadow's resistance to true liberation. It represents the ego's clinging to a familiar, albeit restrictive, identity as the worrier. Jung spoke of the ego's inherent conservatism, its tendency to resist genuine transformation. This is the comfort zone of worry. Consider the figure of the suffering saint in various traditions who, through their suffering, found a sense of identity and even spiritual purpose. While there can be genuine spiritual growth through adversity, an unconscious attachment to the suffering itself, rather than a striving for liberation, can become a profound obstacle to peace. This manifests in countless ways in contemporary life. Individuals who complain incessantly about problems but resist practical solutions, because the act of complaining itself provides a sense of connection or validation. People who constantly seek advice but never implement it, because the problem provides a convenient excuse for not moving forward. Even in health, an unconscious attachment to an ailment can prevent genuine healing, as the sick role provides certain benefits, however undesirable they may consciously seem. To dismantle the pattern of unconscious attachment to the problem, cultivate radical honesty about the hidden benefits your worrying provides. Ask yourself, what do I gain from worrying about this? Or what uncomfortable truth am I avoiding by focusing on this problem? Challenge the notion that worry is productive or protective. Begin by taking small, consistent actions that directly contradict your typical patterns of avoidance or rumination. This consistent, conscious effort will gradually expose the illusion of benefit, allowing you to shed the identity of the worrier and step into the boundless freedom of a mind at peace. We have embarked on an arduous yet ultimately liberating journey, confronting the often unseen principles that anchor you to a life of perpetual apprehension. From the subtle mechanisms of anticipatory projection to the profound attachments to the very act of worrying, each shadow principle, once illuminated and integrated, liberates immense mental energy and emotional peace. Together, these insights form a comprehensive framework, empowering you to not merely manage worry, but to transcend its very grip and cultivate an unshakable inner calm. This integration of awareness and action is the very essence of genuine self-mastery, the path to a life truly free from the shackles of endless apprehension. This profound understanding, however, carries a significant responsibility. It is a powerful tool for self-liberation and the creation of a life aligned with your highest purpose. yet it demands ethical discernment. This knowledge can be used to detach from legitimate concerns, to become indifferent, or to simply bypass genuine self-reflection in pursuit of a false sense of peace. The choice, as always, rests in your hands. Use it to fortify your spirit, to expand your capacity for presence, and to understand the intricate dance of your own mind, but never, under any circumstances, to dismiss valid concerns or to become unresponsive to the genuine needs of others. Your path to stopping worry forever is not a destination, but an ongoing process of courageous self-awareness, a continuous shedding of mental burdens and a radical embracing of the calm, powerful presence that is your true nature. Embrace the journey and allow your liberated mind to illuminate your most peaceful and purposeful path forward. In the comments below, share which of these 5 shadow principles you recognize most strongly in your own worrying patterns, and what small step you plan to take to begin releasing its hold. If this deep dive into the nature of anxiety and the profound journey of inner peace resonates with your spirit, subscribe to the channel to continue unlocking the intricate secrets of the human mind and cultivating your own unshakable serenity. Your like is a powerful affirmation that this knowledge holds true value, and a clear signal that this journey of profound inner freedom is one worth continuing together.